Now, it's almost 4 months since Rishi Sunak announced he'd be stepping down as the leader of the Conservative Party, and next Saturday, the marathon process of replacing him will finally reach a conclusion. Kemi Badenoch is the odds-on favourite to win, and she has spent the weekend here in Scotland. I met her in Glasgow, a city where Nigel Farage's Reform UK party beat the Tories in every single constituency in the general election in the summer. So, a big job for a new leader to turn things round. How would she do it?
By doing what I am doing now, talking about principles. If you listen to a politician like Nigel Farage, you can see that he communicates with those people who are voting reform in a way that they understand. It's very clear, it's very consistent, the message is not muddled. And that's one of the things that I need, that I want us to be able to do. But also, we broke promises on things like tax, on immigration, we didn't get them right, and we're going to have to show people that we care about those issues that matter to them. What I don't think we should do is merge with reform or do a deal with reform. That's not the answer. It is about presenting a coherent framework for the centre-right.
So where's the difference between you and reform?
We are about building things up. They're really about pulling things down. And for some time, our party, my party, started talking too much about the things that it didn't like, rather than with hope and optimism and how it was building a brighter future. That's really what I want us to do. Reform isn't about a brighter future, it's about all the things that it doesn't like. That is a big difference.
Nevertheless, they have a persuasive message. We saw that at the last election. Immigration is their big shtick. Where do you go on that to win those votes back? It
is absolutely critical that we lower immigration. It is having knock-on effects on things like housing. We just cannot build at sustainable levels for the amount of people that are coming into the country legally, let alone adding the illegal immigration to that. But we need to look at the root cause of the problem. So where I differ from my opponent, Robert Jenrick, is that he wants to commit he's made a commitment to leaving the ECHR. I have said that might be necessary, but we should start from first principles. How do we ensure that even within the ECHR, we're doing better, because other countries who are in it are able to deport more people who don't belong in their countries better than us.
Here's a quote from you from 2018, when you were very pleased with Sajid Javid, the Home Secretary at the time, who was relaxing immigration rules. In particular, I'd like to thank the Home Secretary for removing annual limits on work visas and also on international students, both of which I lobbied for. A lot's changed for you since then, hasn't it?
Well, what's really changed is that points-based system didn't work. We campaigned for a points-based system, that we're going to be agnostic on country, it's going to be points-based based on skills. I had, universities, science institutions like the Wellcome Institute telling me that they couldn't recruit scientists and that the visas were artificially capped. So I said, fine, well, let's liberalize visas for the skilled people, the top people that we want. What we ended up doing was just a general liberalisation. That was wrong.
How do you square off a circle like Scotland in that case? Because your message on immigration will be very different to voters in the southeast of England or the northwest of England to what it has to be here. Everybody, I think, in Scotland agrees. We have almost the opposite problem to the one that you're depicting on immigration. We need more people here. We thought last week, perhaps, actually, the UK government were going to announce a separate immigration system for Scotland. Devolve immigration, perhaps. Would you be in favour of that?
No, absolutely not.
Why not?
You cannot devolve immigration. We are one United Kingdom. The borders are the borders of the United Kingdom, not the borders between Scotland and England. I don't think that that is the way. You are right that there are some places that have too much immigration and others who don't even notice any of it is happening. We need to look at a wholesale immigration and integration policy rather than what we have, which is turning into a free-for-all. Most people staying in London and the southeast and big cities in the Midlands and the north, and Scotland not necessarily getting the skills that it needs or wants.
So what do you do about that?
I would like us to deal with legal and illegal immigration separately. The illegal immigration problem is arguably bigger because the system is broken. Look at the Human Rights Act, look at many of these international agreements which were made for a different era and don't work now. But on legal immigration, you look at the question that I was asking about that points-based system. Something is still not right. How is it that despite the liberalisation, Scotland still doesn't have the people it needs? We had 750,000 people come in the run-up to 2022. Where are those people? Why are they not here if you need them?
Well, if I'm a Scottish employer, And I'm thinking, crikey, my business is on the cusp now because I just can't get the staff. You're telling me this morning you don't have the answer to that?
No, what I'm saying is that it is complicated. Or what I'm not going to do is just throw out a random policy. If you're a Scottish business person, for example, and you have an issue with getting skilled workers, I would be talking about training, for example. I'd be talking about looking at people perhaps in another part of the UK, seeing if we can have some more internal mobility. But what I'm not going to say...
How do you do that, though? How do you persuade people who are living happily in one part of the UK that they've got to move?
These are the things that we need to do. What we can't do is just make promises without a plan. What I'm saying is that my party needs new plans. What I'm not saying is that I'm just going to pull out what's in my head and say, here's what we do. Anyone, even within the government, who says that they have the answers now, I'm afraid is not telling the truth. Well, I tell the truth. I'm honest.
There is one potential answer, isn't there? Because there's a separate...
What is that?
Well, there's a separate Scottish tax code. So you could have people who could come in and work in Scotland who very specifically could not move south of the border and work down there. That means that they're, you know, they're allowed to work in one area, but it doesn't spread.
I think that sounds nice in theory, but that would mean border controls between Scotland and the rest of the UK.
No, wouldn't they? Just couldn't work or claim benefits outside Scotland.
Yes, but that would require a lot more than what we have now, which I don't think would be good for the union. I am a unionist. We are the Conservative and Unionist Party. It's hard enough even asking landlords, for example, to check whether people are allowed to be in the country. Having a totally different tax code would be extremely difficult to police.
But we do have a tax code, a different tax code.
No, what I mean is having an immigration-based tax would be extremely difficult to police at the levels that you're talking about.
Tell me a bit about devolution. You said you would reprogram major aspects of the British state if you were Prime Minister. And, you know, let's not forget, you could well be the leader of the opposition in just a few days' time. You want to be the next Prime Minister. Devolution is one of the things you said you would reprogram. What does devolution look like under Kemi Badenoch?
It is one that is focused on people, not process. When we were first talking about devolution, it was to bring power closer to the people. I think that that's really at local council level, and I think that it is about who it is that decides, who it is that we get into those positions of power. There's no point devolving if you don't get the very best people making the decisions. And what we have been seeing, not just in Scottish or Welsh Parliament, but I would say even at the mayoral level, is that it's just more politicians. Devolution wasn't just about having more politicians. It was about having better policies that delivered better outcomes.
But it was you who stood up in front of your party conference pitching for the leadership and said, I want to reprogram major aspects of the British state.
Because I don't think they're working.
You specifically laid out those aspects, but you don't know what you want to do. You
don't
know what reprogramming looks like.
I know that they are not working. If something is not working, I can say, I want to fix this. That doesn't mean that I've got a fully worked up plan. It means we're going to go away and get a plan. And we know that these are the areas that people tell us. These are the areas that people tell us aren't working. They don't like the disparity between Scotland and England, especially in education, which I think is scandalous. They don't like the disparity in tax, where there's so much higher tax in Scotland without the rewards that come from that.
Do you consider the union to be a voluntary union?
So, yes, I do. I think the independence referendum result in 2014 shows that. But I do think that we need to stop talking about the union as if it's a union for Scotland or a union for Wales. It's a union for all of the countries. Indeed. And not enough is talked about the union in England. And I think that that's wrong.
But if it's a voluntary union, you say it is, what's the democratic route out of it for a country that decides it wants to leave?
Well, we had that in 2014.
That was 10 years ago. What would the democratic route out of it be if Scotland wanted to leave now?
Well, I think that constantly having referenda is not necessarily delivering what people want.
So there's no route out now for Scotland?
So a voluntary union doesn't mean something which people can just press a button at any point and then it all unravels. There are many, many people who are involved. And it is a complex question, yes. But if the real question you're asking me is, do I think we should have another referendum? I don't think the answer is yes.
So there is no route out for the people of Scotland at the moment?
Well, one of the things, Martin, which I think we need to recognise is that building a country requires a lot of work, it requires a lot of effort, and it isn't something that we should take for granted. But if all we're talking about is how to get out, we're not actually bringing people together.
No, but that means it's not voluntary.
I disagree. I think that it is.
So what's the way out? What's the way out?
I disagree with the premise.
When can we get it? When can we be released if we wish to be?
I disagree with the premise of the question, Martin, that a voluntary union is one where everybody can rush out at a particular point. People feel different things at different times. And the union is about more than just Scotland or just Northern Ireland or just Wales. It is about all four of us, all four nations, how we interact.
So theoretically, we could be held in this union against the will of the people.
I do not think that the country has even healed from Brexit, let alone the 2014 independence referendum. I want politicians to get out there and start fixing things for the people, rather than obsessing endlessly about these political questions that actually are not making life better for anyone.
Well, you have a busy few days coming up. You have a lot more talking to do. Thank you very much indeed for giving us some of your time. Kemi Badenoch, thank you.